And I remember getting out and I had my Glock 17. I pulled it out like this and I'm like, police, put your hands up, right? And he sees the car swarming. So his attention's like, what the f? And I'm coming from his right. And I see him look towards me and I see him go like this. I'm like, all right, here we go. And I remember screaming at him, don't fucking do it. I will fucking shoot you. Don't do it. But that's the closest I ever came to shooting somebody, man.
I do want to ask, before we transition into some of your current views, what's the darkest thing you saw as a special agent?
In 2015, I was in Laredo, Texas, and we have something where you're on call, right? And when you're on call, like if Border Patrol catches a load of illegal aliens coming in with a driver, or someone gets caught with like trying to smuggle drugs in or whatever, Border Patrol and Customs and Border Protection, to make it simple, Border Patrol is green uniform, Customs and Border Protection is blue uniform. Border Patrol is stopping you if you're coming in illegally in a place where you shouldn't be, a non-authorized port of entry, and CBP is stopping you if you're coming in somewhere where it's a legal point of entry, like at an airport or whatever. You see the guys with the blue uniforms. So CBP or Border Patrol would catch these guys smuggling in drugs, illegal aliens, whatever it may be. They call us. We're like the detectives of DHS. They arrest them, put them in a room, call the duty agent. Hey, we got this guy here. This is what we got. Do you want to respond? Yes. You show up, you do your interview. So in this case, Border Patrol had caught a group of aliens with a driver. And one of the guys that was in a group said, I need to talk to an agent. They said, what do you want to talk to him about? He said, I'm not going to tell you. I need to talk to an agent, whatever. So they call me. Hey, this guy's here. He wants to provide information. He doesn't want to talk to any of us. He wants to talk to an investigator. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm over here playing some Overwatch or whatever. I'm like, cool. Like it's 2015, 2016-ish. I go respond. And I sit down from the guy, I sit across from the guy, say, hey, what's up? What's going on? And he basically tells me that like at the time when I was in Laredo, Texas, there was a war going on in Nuevo Laredo, Tamaulipas, which is the state of Mexico. And the Los Zetas were fighting with the Mexican Marines. It was really bad because the Los Zetas is like a militarized cartel. Now I think it's Cartel del Noreste that runs it, but this is back like 15, 16-ish. And he was protecting a guy named, I think, Miguel Trevino. So this guy was a bodyguard for high-ranking people in the Los Zetas. And he was telling me, look, I want to provide information on them, but in exchange, I need protection. I need a green card or a visa to stay here because they're going to kill me and kill my family. And obviously, when you get people like this, I'm like, all right, cool. Well, let's see what you got. Like, let's verify. And one of the most interesting stories I've ever heard, and he kind of tells me, takes me through his day and his duties, right? And what this guy's job was, it was a sicario, which is basically like, you know, one of these hitmen and bodyguard. So his job was, whenever they were moving around Nuevo Laredo, they'd move in motorcades, right? And a bunch of different Escalades, tin it out. So when the Mexican Marines would intercept them, they wouldn't know where the boss was. So his job was to kind of create a path so that any of the Treviños can escape. They'll block it off. He'd get out and they'll just give cover fire, like military type stuff, literally pulling out AKs, ARs, whatever, rocket launchers, and they're fighting the Marines. And his job was to make sure that he got away safely. They were the diversion. And I was like, okay, so you're like a bodyguard, Secret Service type thing, but on the Mexican side. All right, cool. He's like, well, I went a little bit further than that. My job would be, not only did I have to do protection, but I would kill as many of them as I could. And what would happen is I would kill as many as I could, and I'd go walk over to the corpse and I'd cut a finger off, or I'd cut a hand off, I'd cut some type of limb to show that these are the amount of people I killed. And he would get paid a bonus per body part he brought to the Treviños. And obviously, well, with a financial incentive like that, he killed a lot of people. And the thing that was the most chilling about it was he spoke about it very candidly, very openly, didn't stutter not one time, very calm. And for him, it was just like another day in office. And obviously me, I'm listening to this as like a 25-year-old, 26-year-old guy, right? My Sperry's, my polo shirt from Connecticut, you know, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And I'm just like, you know, obviously hiding because you have to have a good poker face. But I'm like, holy shit, man. Like it's real over there. So that was shocking, that he was literally getting paid bonuses to bring fingers over. When it comes to child exploitation, I would always volunteer on those cases. I was in a drug/human smuggling group when I was in Laredo. But whenever they had raids, right? Because we had what's called a child exploitation group where there'd be like, you know, sheriffs over there, HSI special agents, FBI was on the task force, all these different agencies. And whenever they would do like these raids, it would be, you know, undercover talks to some people. People says, hey, let's meet up or whatever. Undercover says, okay, let's meet up. I'm going to bring my daughter or whatever. And they would bust them a lot of times like this. And one crazy story, and it just came to my mind right now. Cotulla, Texas, okay? Middle fucking nowhere on Interstate Highway 35. At the time, I had a very big drug case out of there. and I knew the area very well. It was about an hour north from Laredo. And there was this Border Patrol agent that was talking to an undercover HSI agent who was supposed to meet with him. Well, he thinks it's a mom, but she's actually operating undercover. The agent is from, I think he was from Del Rio or something like that. He had to drive like 2 hours over to Cotulla. So he's talking with this undercover. He thinks it's a mom and her like 11-year-old daughter, right? So they plan to meet or whatever. And the area that they were planning to meet was Cotulla because it was the middle ground between Laredo and Del Rio or wherever he was coming from, or Uvalde, one of these areas in the middle of nowhere in South Texas. So the child exploitation group reaches out to me and says, hey, Amru, we know, or Fuddle, you call me by my last name. We know that you have this drug case out of Cotulla, you know the area well. Can you run the operation? I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll run the operation. You know, I'll tell you guys where we need to set up and everything else like that. Surveillance, let's use this hotel, all this other stuff. Because this is like a rural area. Like to paint the picture for your audience, we're talking middle of nowhere, sand everywhere, like old West saloons, like dude, nothing. Like, you know, 10, 20,000 people live here. Everyone's corrupt, dirty sheriff's office, all this kind of crap, right? All over the place, right? And at the time I had this big case with ATF and DEA. And I had gotten along with them really well, which, you know, everyone else fought with these agencies, but that's a whole other conversation in the Southwest border. So I run the operation. I tell everybody where we need to be. We need to block off the highways. We need to have them come to this store or have them come to this area, meet you at this hotel, because this is how we can do it in a way. Because whenever you do these operations, you need to do it in a manner where you're you know, trying to be safe for everybody. Now, this guy's law enforcement, right? So he's going to come armed more than likely. So I remember the Office of Inspector General, who does like internal investigations for DHS. I remember I asked him when I was running the briefing, what hand does he shoot with? Was he right or left-handed? And he was like, he's right-handed. I'm like, all right, cool, right? And I'll tell you why that's going to be important here in a second. So day of operation, I'm out there with DEA. We're watching the store. We have other agents watching the hotel where he's supposed to go. We have guys blocking off the highway because this hotel he's supposed to go to, you have to drive by the store and go to this hotel. Now, the reason why we set up at the store is because a lot of times before they do the act, they might go buy some condoms, lube, or some other shit. And you want to arrest them as they have that stuff because it's evidence. So he shows up. We have him on surveillance. Call on the radio. He shows up. He stops at the store as we had anticipated, which is great because I was like, you know, awesome. So he goes in the store and, you know, I'm telling the case agent, hey, because the case agent and the person running the operation are two different people. I'm like, yo, he's in the store. We could take him down when he comes out, or we could wait until he gets to the hotel. What do you want to do? And the guy, I'll never forget, was a good dude. I used to play Overwatch with him back in the day. He's like, if he comes out with bags, just take him. I'm all right. So I tell the team, hey, when he comes out, we're going to take him. So he goes in the store. We're waiting, literally, you know, biting our fingernails, waiting for this guy to come out. And he comes out. I'll never forget, as he comes out, like 4 cars, boom, right up on him, right out of this like grocery store / gas station type thing. We all pull up. And I remember getting out. I was on a front passenger seat. I remember getting out and I had my my Glock 17. I pulled it out like this and I'm like, police, put your hands up, right? Federal agents. He comes out like this, right? He comes out like to the store and I'm coming from his right? So I'm coming from his right-hand side and he sees the car swarming. So his attention's like, what the f-? And I'm coming from his right. And I see him look towards me and obviously he's law enforcement. He's instinct. And I saw he had his jacket open. They always train you, keep your jacket open, right? Because it was like a colder day. And I see him go like this. I'm like, all right, here we go. And that's why I asked what hand he was shoots with. He goes like this to move the jacket out the way. And I remember screaming at him, don't fucking do it. I will fucking shoot you. Don't do it. Don't do it. Put your hands up. Put your hands up. And I guess like he froze and he realized like, okay, it's cops. Because this is all happening like in an instant, right? And my buddy and my supervisor, he jumps on him and throws him to the ground, right? And I'm like, okay, thank God. But that's the closest I ever came to shooting somebody, man. Because he literally like went like this and looked at me, and I was ready. I had my sights lined up on his head because I knew he probably might be wearing body armor. And like at that set, like a second later, boom, my supervisor tackles him. We get him on the ground. We arrest him. Blah blah blah. The guy ended up confessing, pled guilty, everything else like that. It's a big case. I can send you the link after if you want to like read up on it. But yeah, that was something that was disturbing too. We took that one down, and you know I got a bunch of stories like that. But yeah, those are some that kind of like stick out at the top of my head from you asking.
How would you say that witnessing all this darkness. And I know that you run kind of like a crime podcast now. I used to do crime content myself about serial killers, and it kind of
I love that's like really interesting stuff for me, man. Like I do my Fed React show on Sundays, and I've covered like every serial. Who's your favorite? Not in that way, but
killer.
Most interesting, we'll say.
Oh man, I haven't been asked that in a while. I stopped making the content a couple years ago. There was a few cases. Maybe have you heard of the Bone Breaker case?
No, who's that?
No, it's this guy that had a fetish for crushing young boys' bones, and like it was just so strange to me that that was his thing. There was
out of U.S.
Yeah.
When did he operate? What years?
I wish I remember this. This would have been the 90s.
90s?
Or the 80s. Okay. John Wayne Gacy one is, of course, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
There's another guy.
70s.
I'm trying to remember.
They found like 33 bodies or 30 plus bodies in his house. Like, I'm convinced the 1970s was like the worst year in America. Like, every single big serial killer operated in the 1970s, right? You had Samuel Little, who has the most confirmed kills. You had Ted Bundy. You had John Wayne Gacy, crazy clown. Jeffrey Dahmer, I think, committed his first murder like in 75, 76. You had the son of Sam Berkowitz. You had, or David Berkowitz, excuse me. You had, who else? Ed Kemper, Richard Cottingham, the torso killer, you know, cutting women up in Times Square. You had the mafia was going crazy at that time. The five crime families were going nuts. You had, oh man,
Golden State Killer
was operating in the 70s. Yeah,
I remember.
Yep, he was operating at that time. But yeah, just so many different serial killers operating at that time. Absolutely nuts.
How has seeing all this and like reading about these stories kind of changed the way you see the world and the way you kind of come to truth?
Well, it's made me realize, like, number one, the world's a very cold and dark place. Number two, no one's going to help you unless you help yourself. And then number three, most people are low IQ. So if you want something done right, a lot of the times you're going to have to do it yourself, or like get like people that you trust that really know and are competent in what they do, which is why it's so important to have like a good circle. But yeah, I mean, those are just some things that like I've kind of realized, well, whether it's drawing from my law enforcement experience or drawing from the podcasting world, and you know how social media is and how people are weird and fickle in this line of work and snaky. Yeah, definitely very interesting, because like one thing I will say is, like, for me, right, loyalty is very big, right? I came from a profession where like you're literally about to hit a house and the guy behind you might be the reason why you live or die. So you needed to be on a stack with guys that you can trust. And coming into like social media or whatever, dealing with a lot of people that are like just really snaky and weird, it always like rubbed me the wrong way and was strange. But I'm kind of used to it now, that this is just how the entertainment industry is. But it was, I had to get like a wake up call, like the first year or two that we were on YouTube, figuring out like, oh yeah, a lot of these people have like a self-interest and ulterior motive. So that was me being naive coming in.